Hey, it's Dr. Hannah with this week's Hot Topic. Today I want to talk to you about how to ergonomically set your driver's seat appropriately. Again, this isn't for the passengers or the people in the back seat, it's just purely the driver. So we've got a couple other things you have to worry about when you're the driver, like the gas pedals, the gear shaft, the steering wheel, all that fun stuff. So first thing you want to make sure when you get into the driver's seat that your knees are level with your hips. So what I'm talking about is you don't want your seat to be tilted forwards or downwards. That can cause a little bit of extra strain and stress on your back or your knees. That's really not necessary. So try and keep it as level as possible. So then you're in a neutral seating position. So the knees need to be level with the pelvis. The other thing with the knees is your knees should only be bent about 20 to 30 degrees when they're fully extended hitting the gas pedal. If they're further or you have smaller degree than 20 to 30 degrees, you can't reach the pedals appropriately. So if you had to stop suddenly or step on the gas or anything, you really couldn't do it because you don't have that extra oomph behind you because the pedals are too far away. If it's too close, if you got into a car accident, your knees could end up in your chest and the steering wheel. Who knows what else goes on when you're in an accident where things fly and all that. So you don't want your knees to end up in your chest. So 20 to 30 degree bend in your knee is really all that you need. The other thing with the knees is you only want a 2 finger width distance between your knees and the back of the edge of your seat. If you have more than that, you probably are a little too close or further away. Your knees are not in the most comfortable position, so really all you need is that 2 finger width distance apart. Nobody likes to rub raw against the seat, so just make sure that that's a little bit further away. If your car allows you to move the steering wheel forwards or backwards, just adjust that appropriately. The other thing is you need to make sure that your driver's seat is reclined to only about 100 degrees. You don't want it directly straight up at 90, that's super uncomfortable and it causes this anterior head carriage, which is not really good. Plus you look like a dork if you're just sitting in the car and your head's forward like this. So 90 degrees, but you don't want it, or 100 degrees, not 90 degrees, but you don't want it reclined so far back that you're driving from the back seat, if you know what I mean. And again, you probably look really stupid when you're driving in the back and you're kind of like this. That's what you don't want to do. You want to be at 100 degrees of recline because then that way you can have both hands on the wheel at one time. Can't tell you how many times my mom told me that driving, both hands on the wheel. So having that reclined about 100 degrees is a good enough angle where you're relaxed, you're comfortable, and all that. So the other thing with that reclining is your headrest. You need to make sure that your head is in the center of the headrest, not above or below it, because if you got into a car accident, the headrest can do a lot of damage if it's not in the right position. So how you figure out if your headrest is in the right place? It should just be in the center of the headrest. It should also be, if you can tilt it forwards and upwards, if your head is tilted forwards or backwards, you can adjust that appropriately, but you should have a straight line between your ear, your shoulder, and that headrest. So you just wanna make sure that that's a general straight plumb line. That's how you set your headrest appropriately. It should feel comfortable, so it shouldn't put you forward or backwards because your shoulders should really be sitting relaxed and nice on the back of your seat at all times. So it shouldn't push you forwards or where you feel really uncomfortable. The other thing our cars have is lumbar support. Good rule of thumb is if you can take your hand and put it directly behind your back, that's the amount of curve that you should have in your back. So if you can actually fit your forearm in there, it means you have too much of a curve, so you can add a little bit more or decrease things, change your seat up or down. Again, you want to make sure that that seat is as level as it can be, but if you have too much of a lumbar support in there, like an extended curve, that can cause some issues, put extra stress on your back. It can be really uncomfortable. So you should only be able to fit your hand in there in the small of your back. If you need more, adjust your lumbar support appropriately. If you have too much, again, you can take that lumbar support away to make sure it's a little bit more comfortable. Then the last thing most people don't think about is your steering wheel and your arm position. Your arm shouldn't be bent at like 90 degrees. That's just really uncomfortable, but it also shouldn't be extended fully because again, if you get into a car accident, you could cause a lot of damage. Car accidents could cause a lot of damage in general, but these are good rules to help you avoid major injuries if you do get into a car accident, or prevent yourself from getting into a car accident if you're in the right position so you can manage appropriately or respond differently and things like that. So in the steering wheel, you don't want to have your arm bent, or in the gear shaft, you don't want to have your arm bent at 90 degrees, or you don't want to have to fully extend your arm out because it means your seat's not in the appropriate spot as it should be. So that is all I have for you this week. Hopefully these tips will make you a little bit more comfortable when you're driving. That's all I have. We'll see you guys next week.